Board of Directors for this Wednesday, March 7th, 2012, scheduled for 11:30. I'm sitting in as president in Gary Hittner's absence. I don't think Sims is going to be here, and the doctor is uncertain. He's delivered. So we have a quorum, and we will proceed. The first item on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting from February 1, 2012. Are there any changes, conditions, or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will be accepted as previously distributed. Next item on the agenda is presentation and discussion of studies and projects, which I believe Melissa is going to take the lead on that.
Was it back there? Where's it open? Well, apologies to Glenn and Richard, you've already seen this, so.
We're slow learning. We need two additions.
She knows she has to repeat.
This is our remedial class, don't you say?
Right. Everybody see that?
Well, this is just, you've all seen these, I'm sure, driving or walking around, and so this is just kind of an overview of what's happening downtown now, and what's under construction. And I know Courtyard isn't under construction, but I thought this was kind of an interesting before and after shot. This was before the construction of the Marriott, and this is after. But basically, these are all projects under construction, and when I added up everything that was going on, that had either recently been completed, was under construction now, or was planned and committed, it was over $170 million in projects. So, that's something I think any downtown, especially in this economy, would really like to have. So I think it's important we can get bogged down in a lot of detail of what we're trying to do, myself included, to keep in mind all that's going on. This is Vineyard Manor, kind of going down Polk Street, south on Polk Street. Vineyard Manor, a residential project for affordable housing that's being done. They're actually removing the paint and bringing back what was there originally now. This is a building that's been vacant, I don't know how long, certainly since I've been here, but probably well before that. And it was pretty bad, as from what I understand. And they're also putting in the streetscape. We have over 130 lights that are going in. This is not including the Civic Center area project. This is just lights that are going in or have gone in downtown. And I think it's interesting. I mean, the city ordered, I think it was 100 lights. And, thought it would take a while to get those in. They're already gone, and there's a second order of them. So this entire stretch of Polk Street will be redone between the church and Vineyard Manor, with the exception of this little property right here, which is an auto detail. And then going down Polk Street, the Methodist Church project, which is coming along. I took these today, actually, and really going to be a nice project, $12 million addition, along with the streetscape. This is the Taylor Street side, and Polk Street side, new sidewalk already under construction. I don't think we've had a project yet where we haven't had a little glitch or something. Utilities underground, light poles in the wrong place. This is one we'll have to go back, and these poles actually come down into the street lights, and they'll actually come down on this particular project. So the question is when they're coming, but anyway, all of this is going in. These are the tree rows, as you see, for the trees, which obviously haven't done yet. And this is looking southbound on Polk Street. They're pouring that this morning, trying to get it in place for Sunday. And This is again, on the Taylor Street side, looking, northbound. And, I mean, I think it's just gonna be an amazing project, and on the streetscape, and I know I talk a lot about it, but it's just gonna make such a huge difference in the way it feels. You know, all these projects were one where the sidewalk was typically on the curb edge, and they've all been moved, you know, way in, and you're gonna have landscape and streetlights. Taylor Street, as part of this project, was converted to two-way, unbeknownst to a lot of people. They haven't figured that out yet, and it's pretty clear, but I guess it'll take some time. And that was to, really there wasn't a strong reason for it to remain one way, and that was to enhance the circulation around the church, help people get in and out on Sunday evening. And this is kind of neat. I'm a little biased that my daughter was there at the Child Development Center for a couple of years and used this, but this wasn't there. So this is the kind of the courtyard for that. And then across the street, Emerald College, this was a parking lot, it's still going to be a parking lot, it's going to be a whole lot nicer parking lot. And this is a shared lot that's used by Emerald College and also the Baptist Church and Methodist Church on both sides. So that's under construction. And I think it's really kind of neat. Emerald College is now officially rebranded their Polk Street campus to the downtown campus. As I understand, they're an important part of downtown. This is looking northbound on Polk. The streetscape is going in there, and also on 15. We've got a challenge here. We can't put in the large trees we'd like to put in because of these overhead lines. It's like a main line going overhead. So until we can, bury that whole stretch, we're not going to be able to get, the large trees left to come in. Potter County Courthouse is, where it comes along, it's just so evident. It's going to be such a showcase for our downtown. It's right smack in the middle of downtown, and it just, if you hadn't had a chance to go by and see it, every day it changes and gets better, and the lawn is now gone in. And I thought this was such an interesting shot. It sort of creates this really neat kind of gateway effect. Here's the front entrance with the new lighting on the interior and the benches. This is what, a $16 million project, I think, if I recall correctly. Oops, sorry. And this is the streetscape on the 6th Street side. Here you see the bulb outlet on it. It's a little misleading. This is actually flat, along with the street. Here's the curb edge. The curb edge actually comes out about the width of those parked cars. And this is the one looking down Fillmore with all the streetscape on it. One of the challenges we've got to do is look at moving these poles, which are right in the middle of the walkway. And we're going to have that every time we put in a walkway. It was a different assumption, when these were put in, and I don't know if y'all remember this, and I didn't get a picture of it back then, but this was all just asphalt. It was not very comfortable to walk on, but no big deal when that was there then, but it's a challenge now. So trying to work with TxDOT to get those moved in, and TxDOT has very graciously agreed to give us 6 new streetlight poles that are the design of these poles. They're a lot taller. They're, 30, 40 feet tall. But they're the same fluted black design. So between this and Happy State Bank, we'll have these poles replaced. And my hope is eventually too that we'll be able to, like on these poles, for example, paint those black, which I think will make a big difference. These are going in, these are those, if you recall the plan, that there are medallions going in at each corner, which I think are really kind of interesting. So they're doing kind of the last touches. And those are going in. And the streetscape, this is on the 5th Street side. This was all reconstructed because this part of the sidewalk had been removed for hidden parking. So this is now parallel parking, and it actually aligns better with the lanes. This was kind of put in, seems like, it didn't align anymore when that was changed with this block. So that's all been changed, and this is now lined up, and it's parallel parking. And toilets come with the new streetscape.
Is that gonna stay?
No, of course not.
We're taking it over to Tyler.
This is across the street, and much appreciation to Garrett and the city for putting in this streetscape. This was that sidewalk that was caving in, the basement underneath was caving in, and there was a long process to see who was responsible for that. And so that was worked out, and the city reconstructed this walkway with, 5 lights, I think it is, and the new trees. And so I really appreciate, the city putting all of that new streetscape in. So this is across the street from Potter County. And this is looking southbound. And I just think it's an interesting picture. I mean, obviously, the new work stops here. And, we're going to have, I've been asked this question a lot, but what about the old versus the new? And it looks, we're going to have this transition for a while until all these pieces start to come together. 9th and Buchanan, just wherever we are down the street from City Hall.
The big gray building goes up.
Here's City Hall. Well,
City Park, you looking out the window.
it's that way, right? This is just, it's not a development per se, but there are new satellite dishes that are going in here, a really, really big one, or has gone in, it's like 21 feet tall. But we worked with them, and Kelly Shaw was really helpful in working with them to create the landscape and streetscape here. This is across the street. Here's the location of the future Intel. So it's literally across the street from. And so they're putting in a significant amount of landscaping. This is looking eastbound. Here's that humongous dish. And so this will all be landscape. There's a fence here that's going to be put up, but you won't see it because it's going to be evergreen, very tall landscape. And all of the trees that were in here died. And they would have had to replace them, so we said, let's put those here and put in street trees and make them do that. Fortunately, sidewalk was in the right place. Happy State Bank, probably seen construction going on at, 9th and Taylor. And this is where their old drive-through was, and obviously there's a new one, so they tore this one down, and this is going to be a parking lot. They don't have to do this, but they're doing all of the streetscape that they had on their other side, the lights, the new walkway. They could have just done construction on the interior for the parking lot. The only thing they would have been required to do is meet the citywide landscape ordinance, which would have been a fewer number of trees. But they didn't have to do all of this, so really happy that that's being done.
Will they block that off at night? Is it gonna be open to the public, or?
I think this is private parking for their employees. Was that your question?
About at night?
I mean, I'm not aware of any arrangement that's been made, that it's just, something we.
I just know they've had some issues with people on public streets parking in the parking lot, and some of the stuff that goes on in.
Over time, my hope is that these lots and garages that aren't used at night, we can work out some arrangement, to be able to have them used. And I'll actually talk a little bit about that.
Are the pedestrian lights going in?
Yeah. Do the lights, the trees, and then the sidewalk.
Great.
Another Chance House, the Victory duplexes you may have heard about. This is in the far northwest corner of downtown. Thought it was interesting. I mean, they came to the design review board and approached me and said they really wish that the design standards had been extended out. And if y'all remember, we took out that corner of downtown, and they're right on the edge of that, and asked if that could be expanded. And I said, well, I'll talk to some folks over there, and perhaps he can, get it done. But, they were very appreciative of standards, giving them some protection, because they've got a pretty big investment going in here. This is 7 duplexes, and I apologize, I think I said my book in 6, but it's 7. So 14 units that is for veterans that need, I think it's up to 6 months of housing to help them get back on their feet. Help them find jobs and help them get back on their feet. So this is the site plan that they are doing, also the streetscape, not the lighting. The lighting they were given an exemption for, because it is of a residential, sort of almost a single family kind of residential character. the standards were never really intended to apply to that, although they're gonna try and, they're trying to get these built first, but they're gonna try and raise the funds for those lights. So, but anyway, these, here's kind of what they look like, the little white houses with black shutters. This area is pretty challenging, let's say. It's, it's vacant lots, it's houses that they tore down one house, that's on a corner that we about to fall down. And this was historically a residential neighborhood, so I think, it's going to be a huge improvement to this area. And the churches and everything, there's a couple churches that are still there. And then lastly, just kind of want to point out, if you've noticed them, thank you to the city, who, there was a federal grant, but it didn't quite cover, I think, all of the funding that was needed to put in the same kind of benches. So I appreciate the city doing that. And there's I think 19 of them throughout. This is what we used to have. And so these are, probably look familiar, they look like the Potter County benches. And that's the standard downtown. Benches are not required, by the way, they're just, they're optional, but, so that's it on that. You want me just to launch into that, or?
I think I had one question. Board of Public Acrobatic Driving.
If you go back to the second chance house and I'm gonna look at the diagram there. So is that more, some places we've seen in some other places, you have this whole parking versus,
Yeah.
The parking being on the inside there.
This is really neat, because it's a very much, it's a combination of the suburban, and that does have setbacks, has a very single family kind of feel, but it has a very urban character in that it is shared parking for all, which is on the back side. This is an alley. So you don't have, front drives, and then shared green space areas. So they're able to get a higher density, more units. And that's a lot, actually, 7 units in one block.
I think, hopefully as we see more things happening in downtown, the old model is, even if you're retail, you put your parking lot out in front but if you look at things like this, as new projects come on board, we may be able to achieve both the things, because you don't want, something that is designed for suburban to be in your urban. You can achieve the same thing. I think it's just a matter of thinking a little bit differently. If these have been built somewhere else, with it, may have been all the parking in the front or whatever it may be, but, when we've been, some other places.
You have a garage, you have a garage, in the front. So, yeah.
But not even using that concept on retail or something else, something just comes,
Right.
in a place that's being developed, just thinking it a little bit different.
So they're planning on redoing all of their sidewalks, marking next to the
Those
street?
will all be reconstructed, and the street trees are there.
So if you think they'll go ahead and put are those trees or lights?
Trees, there's no lights.
No
Yeah.
lights at all?
Yeah, they went to the design review board, and Kelly recommended, and I agree with them on this, to give a variance for the lighting, because this is a residential, it's more like a single-family residential character as opposed to, which that single-family area, the lighting was never intended to go into that. It was never intended if you build a home, you gotta put a light.
Right.
So.
I was just thinking how great it'd be to be able to tie in.
Yeah, and I think.
Not as dense, but if they put them on the corner, one in the middle, or.
It's a great safety measure, and they want it, if they've got to raise it.
I'm just thinking while they were doing the sidewalk, if they put the utilities in, they don't have to come back and tear it up later. It
Yeah,
wouldn't cost them that much.
I agree. But right now, they've raised the funds for these 3 units. And this were a project in the core, or a different kind of project, different location, then they would have needed to put them in. But it's very different.
And did they locate all of this downtown or there because they already had that property?
Yeah.
Is why they put it there, just someplace else?
I would think so. Yeah, they already have it. And so this is on the back side of that block, actually coming around the corner in that block. And it's walkable into downtown. I mean, you can see the Chase Tower. So,
Any questions for Melissa? Okay, the next item on our agenda is the public forum, comments from interested citizens on matters directly pertaining to what this corporation does. Are there any public comments at this time?
want me to go into this?
Oh, sorry. I thought the picture was it.
Oh,
He's asked.
sorry.
Downtown parking.
New plan, we're installing automated car filters. We don't want parking tickets, we'll just turn the car upside
No,
down.
I mean, I gave a presentation to the board, my board, and Jared asked me if I would come and kind of give that presentation here. And really, it's just, as we begin to look at, the project you all are working on and, greater downtown development, parking is going to become more and more of a focus. And it's not that there's a lack of parking, it's just that it needs to be managed well. If you want to create the density, you're going to have to deal with parking differently, kind of what Les alluded to. So, I mean, this is just kind of a presentation, not on Amarillo specifically, but on the parking principles. And one of the things that's really important is to plan comprehensively. So you don't look at it in a vacuum. I think when you do a Walmart, it's real simple. You do the building and you do X amount of spaces for X amount of square feet and you're done. This is different than that for a lot of reasons. You've got to look at traffic patterns and flow, pedestrian experience, which is really, really important, density, aesthetics, and how does parking contribute or not contribute to that sense of place you're trying to create. I think key here is nobody goes downtown because they're doing parking. You don't, in other words, you don't get up and say, I'm going to go downtown because I can park my car. You're going downtown because you're going to the symphony, you're going to a restaurant, you're going to work, whatever, hopefully to. So parking needs to support a compact, walkable downtown with a sense of place. It's got to tie into that, and it's got to be subservient to those functions that are downtown. Quality designs are important. Fortunately, we have the design standards, which help a lot in that regard. Parking lots, you've got to have landscaping or landscaping with it. We don't have the requirement for landscaping within the lot, but we do have it for landscape edges. Garages, no blank walls, architectural articulation. It's got to have some variation in that, and I think in the standards we'll also look at, but I think it's like every 20 feet or less. Street level shops and restaurants, so garages have to allow for that, even though it may not be an option at that time to bring in the retail. You've got to build a garage so that you can do it later. You may have parking at that ground level, but you can add it later. And then smart signs, I think, is the direction everybody's going, and something we'll probably need to look at some point, and that, that would tell you how many spaces are left in a garage. So that you don't go all the way up to the garage and, oh, shoot, there's no spaces, and all the way back down into the next one. It's much more efficient. Parking lots are certainly here and really cities across Texas, everybody's going to drive the truck to work and you're going to have parking lots. But the question is, how do you make them, better for the pedestrian? Each block is so important to downtown. You can literally affect the economic development beyond, for example, a block that has no activity because people stop. And so, there are ways to do that that really aren't that expensive and one of the things we do have to make sure is, delineating the property lines so that cars aren't on the sidewalk. But creating that landscape buffer so that it's, much more pleasant to walk down. This is something that's, this is a really good example of buffering those bumpers. You do parking lots, but you can do them well. So layout's really important. Say this is Polk Street or Main Street. This is not Polk Street, by the way. It's just a conceptual example. And this is the least desirable, where your parking lot is, is laid out over a fairly long piece of your block. This is better, where your parking lot is that way instead of that way, so that you have the least amount of frontage. And this is your best option. And this is kind of like the project we just saw, where your parking is in the back. And so your pedestrians are engaged. There's shops here and aren't parking lots. Garages, talking about the retail at the ground level, or the ability to have retail, architectural articulation, that's very important. And by the way, this is,
That's not a garage.
is that not a
It's
garage?
city building.
That's the atmosphere.
Oh, sorry about that. I actually was thinking of this one, but, sorry, it's the same one. You know, want to have activity, I'll change that out, activity at the ground level. And, you know, I think there's a lot of focus on aesthetics. Aesthetics are important, but how that feels at the ground level is even more important. So this is a garage, and this has punched windows, which make a big difference and don't have a huge impact on the cost to build it, but, you know, make a big difference in how it looks. And more importantly, you have your retail at the ground level. This is, you know, this is also a garage. You retail, all different ways of doing it. And this one you probably recognize, this is next to the Omni Hotel in Fort Worth. And this is a shared garage for the hotel and the city in Southwest Remote. And I have this picture in here because this is a garage, but this is what you experience. You don't know, or maybe you don't even care there's a garage above. This is what you're experiencing at the ground level. So, you know, one of the key things downtown, and this is what makes it so different, is making the best use of what you have. Shared parking is something that, you know, isn't necessarily something you see in the suburbs. We have right now, we had a parking study done that showed that we had about a 30% rate usage on average of the spaces in the Civic Center area. Most downtowns are at 80 or 90%, so that's pretty low. So you want the most efficient use. And making public aware of existing parking, wayfinding websites, making sure signage is clear, not like this. I thought this was kind of funny.
That's pretty good. If you got 30 minutes.
Wayfinding, obviously, we're underway on the wayfinding design. We had a great meeting a couple weeks ago with a focus group of people to kind of across the city to tell us what they thought about wayfinding design. And we threw out a lot of different designs and concepts, and how do we make this simple enough, clear enough, but unique to Amarillo. Wayfinding is pretty basic, you know, but is there a way we can make it unique? I mean, delineating public spaces, one of the things I was told when I got here was that, and I don't know if this is perception or reality, but towing in the evening was a common thing. Parking in, like what you mentioned, parking in Happy's lot or somebody's lot and get towed. And there was one like a year ago that got towed off the sidewalk, which I thought was another thing. But delineating what's public and what's not, where you can and can't park. And here's another example of that. This is actually what we did for the wayfinding program. And you know, I think importantly, you know, when you see the garage, you know you can park there for these things, although you may not have come across these things yet. You know that that's close, so you don't have to circle around and find what you're going to, and then, okay, now where do I park for that? You just see it and you know to pull in. You're trying to reduce that going around and around the blocks. And then consistent signage for whether it's a parking lot or a parking garage. And this is an example of that, where it's the same kind of design. People know to look for it, and they get used to it. Wayfinding websites, which are interactive websites, which are becoming very popular, where you can click on these. This is free parking, and you click on any of these little dots, and it'll pull up a little screen that shows you who operates it, how much does it cost, when is it available, and this shows you what is free, evenings and weekends. This particular one. And here's another one. I think this one is in Nashville, and here's another one. Really common, so that you can figure out before you get there. A lot of the issue with parking downtown is simply knowing. It's not necessarily how far am I going to walk, how much is it going to cost, but the bigger issue is I want to know where I can park and know that I can park there and not get towed. On-street parking is our most valuable asset we have. And, you know, we're building a parking garage, and that's very, very important, but on-street parking is going to fill up first, typically. And so when you have the uses there. And so there's a perceived advantage in visibility. People will walk further if they can see their car, or they can see their destination from their car. And there's a sense of personal safety because of that visibility. And it's very good for pedestrians. It provides this buffer. Here's your sidewalk over here, and there's a buffer with the moving traffic. And then time restrictions.
Can I ask you
Yeah.
something about, you said maximize the on-street parking. Have you thought about angle parking?
It's,
Like-
you know,
Congress Street in Austin,
Yeah.
South Congress? They-
you know, it has pluses and minuses. It can be more dangerous when you pull out. I mean, I love it. I love to see it. We had that actually on the north side of the courthouse.
Right.
On a busy street, I mean, that, I've parked there where you're talking about on Congress Street, and it's a little scary, because
Well,
you know
got
you're
the back
trying to.
end.
They back in, they back,
Yeah.
they don't.
But
pull in.
either way, you gotta maneuver your way. And so I mean, I think it's a good idea on certain places where it makes sense.
Yeah.
The traffic engineering, you know, we probably have to take a second look at it, but
I just
you
didn't know
know.
if you're getting more parking places with,
you absolutely do. And, you know, one of those corridors that, in my view, would really make sense to do that would be Polk Street.
yeah, because it's wider and you
Remove,
don't
you
need
have
that
to
center lane.
remove the center lane and where the rear trucks park, and, do your hidden parking. So when we were doing the streetscape plan, we actually looked at an option for that, and it's
Yeah.
very possible on Polk if you, and that's where I think it would work. I don't think you wanna do it on Buchanan.
I think it'd make it a little more interesting, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And you can get more cars in. Okay, so, and on-street parking, when you look at time restrictions, we already have time restrictions in most of downtown. It's 1 hour or 2 hour, or I found out 15 minutes. And there's now enforcement on that. So, and that's a good thing, so.
Pretty tough.
You know, I think what we'll need to look at as downtown develops and changes is land uses. And those time restrictions need to be based on land use. What is adjacent to it? Should it be 1 hour parking? Should it be 2 hour parking? Should it be 4 or 8 hour parking? You're trying to push employees over here and reserve this for retail users. So we will definitely need to look at that. And then rates. As we move towards paid parking, which inevitably we will need to do, we'll need to look at rates and pay mechanisms. This one's in Fort Worth, this one's in San Antonio. It's actually the same, smart meter system. It's pay station rather, not a meter per se. And there's only one per block. They're not that expensive to put in because in this case you just have one for the entire block. And they take anything. They take credit cards, debit cards. Some of them you can even pay via your cell phone. And these are solar powered, so they power themselves. So they're very easy to put in because you don't have to have a line. So that's kind of where it's headed, and we'll have to look at that as we start looking at the garage and pay or no pay. You can't do that in a vacuum. You can't just charge for this and not look at the whole picture in terms of on-street parking, parking lots, and so forth. So, and then lastly, valet parking, which we're probably not thinking too much about now, but as downtown develops, hotel comes online, nice restaurants are going to hopefully come online. They're going to want to have valet parking. You need an ordinance that begins to address that, and that's good for that business that wants the valet parking, and it's also good for the public because they'll be able to set aside certain spaces on the street for their valet parking during certain times they need it and not have cars parked there. And then they'll need to also find off-street parking, so you don't just valet and park the car on the street. And then this is lastly, the idea, and I'm not necessarily suggesting any specific recommendations on this. This is just generally what downtown is doing, but parking authority is something that has become very common. Provides a way to manage comprehensively all public, not private, public, lots, garages, on-street parking rates, and also can provide a method for all those parking funds to go into to help pay for that parking, to help fund parking downtown.
Can you explain the last part of the number two.
Is that?
What is that, PPA?
Oh, these are just logos of parking authorities.
What's underneath of
That's like a bell.
Sticking out
I
of
don't
the
know.
bell.
Looks like a cow's udder to me, I'm just saying.
You're not focusing on the important stuff.
Really, I think we're sitting here trying to talk about the future of
I
downtown.
mean, look what she took, Jersey City, New Haven, and Yonkers. I mean,
Okay.
PPA might be, I don't know, Philadelphia.
Oh, my goodness, okay. That's all.
Is that the end of your presentation?
That's a good way to, boy, bring it home.
end it with a flare.
Yeah.
All right, now, the next item on the agenda is the public forum. Anyone from the public here speak? Okay, hearing none, after our closed session, I believe the only thing we intended to.
We had a question here. Oh, Council.
Yeah, my name is Gary Jennings. This may or may not be out of order. I purchased some property on West 10th out of foreclosure. It's next to the Globe News between Van Buren and Jackson. And it's street level right there on West 10th. My architect and I and the broker Gabe, we're looking for any suggestions on guidance on if there's any type of demands or what might be most successful along that corridor of West 10th. Either market level apartments, upstairs or downstairs, and or a combination of retail / commercial space, some type of restaurant or coffee shop, or either one or none, or some combination. I think it's a great location. It's a major corridor from Adams Street into downtown, there on West 10th. It does have some challenges, especially once you get to around Jackson. I lived in Houston for a number of years, so I'm aware of homeless people and people walking around with nowhere to go. I don't think there's really a crime problem. I think it's more just some folks wandering around somewhat lost, you might say. So if anybody has any suggestions on what might be successful in that area, feel free to see me or call Chuck Lynch, the architect, or Gabe Irving, but I think that it does have some potential. Thank you.
I think most of the available studies, Downtown Amarillo Inc. has online, and Melissa is the point person for the development. And of course, there are also some resources available at Center City as to what others are doing and who else is involved. So I think there's a number of places you can go where city planning is available as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Specifically, there's a housing study there that you might look at,
Okay.
and I'll be happy to sit down.
Anyone else? Okay, after our closed session, I think the only thing we had on here was to announce our new meeting date, so I'll tell you now, it's March 21. So we will not be expected to do anything after our executive session. Marcus is out today, so those of you who don't know Claude Driven, he's an assistant attorney with the city. I've known him for a long time, he's an okay guy.
He smiles a lot.
So, Claude?